Well, good morning and welcome. And I'm very pleased to welcome Mrs Jan Garsden, who's the very stunning, beautiful wife of child abuse lawyer Peter Garsden. And he's going to be on next week. So let's put the pressure on Peter, because Jan is actually going to really nail this. And Jan and Peter were foster carers, and they foster, as well as parents as well, but they fostered 30 children. Now, I take my hat off to them. I struggled with 4 of my own. And so I'm really interested, because I think it's very important that these unsung heroes are acknowledged, and we understand better if we were, considering doing this angelic thing, that what are the thrills and spills. So welcome, Jan.
Good morning, Marilyn. Nice to see you. Good morning.
Did I say she's gorgeous? Thank you for coming on, Jan. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to have you on, because I would love the public to get to know, the real you. But I just want to know also, because I am the most incurable romantic. How on earth did you meet Peter?
Well, that's a long time ago. It's over 30 years. Yeah, I know. It's amazing we've lasted this long. I had an interior design business, and he commissioned me to sort his house out, really. So I was back and forth quite a lot, doing all of that, curtains, wallpapers and that kind of thing. So we just sort of became friends, really, got to know each other that way through business.
Oh, yeah. Best way. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah. And you've been over 30 years. Goodness me. Well, that's really, I mean, today's world, that's really something, isn't it? And I think a lot of married couples will say, I don't know how I've lasted this long. I used to have a friend of mine who was actually a priest, and he said to me, it's totally unnatural, getting married, because years ago, people didn't live past the age of 45, so you never had a silver wedding. You didn't need to get divorced. Which he probably had a point. So rumour has it, your husband sent me a very sneaky photograph of you when you actually won a beauty pageant.
Oh dear.
I'm hoping we've got the slide here to show how stunning you were. The beauty pageant, that's the wrong, there we go. Where was that? In Macclesfield? Or
no, that was Butlins. They used to run a competition. They weren't pageants in those days. They were just beauty contests. That's all become quite American to call them pageants now. But it's a different animal, really. That was, the Butlins used to run these competitions at holiday camps for the heat. And then you went to a semi-final, and that was the final where I won. And I won a car, a brand new car.
You won a car?
Yeah.
I thought, oh God.
That was a good day.
I thought, don't say she won a red coat.
No, I won a car and £1,000, and it was such an easy way to make money, to be honest.
Wow, yeah, but if you look like you, then you're going to knock out of the park, aren't you?
That was 50 years ago.
Wow, that's amazing. Well done on that, and you've still got your lovely good look. So anyway, on to the thrills and spills of fostering. When did you decide this was going to be the thing for you to do?
I'd always wanted to do something more useful than I was doing. I'd done interior design for 20 odd years and ran a firm and employed people. And I had a skiing accident where I hurt my back quite badly. Ended up in a wheelchair for a year. I couldn't walk. I'd crushed the sciatic nerve. Crushed a disc which had exploded and trapped the sciatic nerve. So I lost the use of a leg. And was in a wheelchair, and I had to give up doing what I was doing, which I really enjoyed, but that was an end to it, really. So Peter was always doing something really useful, and I was envious because he was helping people. His child abuse work meant that he was at the sharp end of putting the world to rights, really. And I was kind of in awe of him doing that when I was just sewing frills on curtains. Not the same sort of thing. So when this happened, I thought, well, there is always a silver lining. You've got to look for an opportunity. And that was the time I thought, well, this really is something I could do. Once I'm out of this wheelchair and I've had the operation, that's something I could do, because I couldn't lift anything. I couldn't carry on driving a lot or, doing a lot of the things I was doing. I couldn't go back to work. So I thought, well, fostering would be ideal, because you're just being your mother and your housewife, which I was doing anyway. So I could add that on, and I'd be helping people, and I would feel useful. So
Amazing. I really think it's amazing. So when you did this, you've just convinced me never to go skiing, by the way.
Oh, I haven't.
I'm risk averse. I won't even do skating. I can't even ride a bike. I've got no sense of balance. So I'd quite like to do the après ski, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, you're more likely to fall over doing that.
I could sit there drinking schnapps all day. That would be great.
Yeah, and then you fall over on concrete. You're better off falling on snow.
I am honestly the world's clumsiest person. Okay. But when you did this, did you already have children?
Oh yeah. We'd got, I think the youngest was probably 11 or 12. And the older one, Lex, was 10 years older. So she was 21, 22. Yeah, she'd already left. She was away at uni. So yeah, it was a good decision, and it was the right decision. It took a long while for me to recover from the operation, which I needed to have to get the use back of my leg. And then we launched into applying, and that's a rigorous process to become a foster carer. And so it should be, it has to be. Children need to be protected, and you need the right people doing the job. So that took about 12 months because we were busy. Peter was busy and couldn't attend all of the meetings. And so it dragged on a bit. But after probably a year, we were approved to foster. And it was great. Yeah.
To be honest, I think those sounding like a grumpy old woman here. I truly honestly, I sometimes think those checks and balances should be made before anybody has a child. Because of the work that Peter does, and that's how I met Peter, through the work I do with freedom from abuse. I'm appalled at I'm appalled at how some parents are. I had a terrible situation in I was in Greg's best sausage rolls. Yeah, I was in Greg's the other day, and there was the woman's language that she was meeting over this 3-year-old. I don't know how I stood there. And in the end, he wouldn't, you know how they do that face in the floor stuff, you know. face in the floor. And she literally dragged him out with his face on the floor, dragged him out, effing and blinding, pushed the buggy over him. I thought, do you know, is anybody going to get social services? And if you do that in public, what is it like behind the scenes? You know, absolutely dreadful. But so did you do short or long-term fostering? Did you?
We did everything. We did emergency, respite, long, short. We had kids from 2, because I couldn't do babies. I couldn't lift a pan.
Yeah.
In and out of the car, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Up to 16. So
wow.
Yeah, we did a bit of everything, really. We never wanted to turn a child away, and we didn't.
No, absolutely.
And if you're on the emergency list, then you get a phone call at 2 or 3 a.m. to say, you know, we've got a child who's in need now. So we put ourselves on that list as well, because. So
the emergency, would that be? I imagine that's where there's been either a child has been sexually abused, or there's domestic abuse in the house, and is that what emergency means?
Not necessarily, no. It could just be that somebody's been taken ill in the night. It could be that the child's run away. Could be that, there's been an incident, and the police have been called and social services have taken the child. So all sorts of different reasons. But, you know, it obviously happens weekends, evenings, when there's nobody on duty. Of course.
Always. I mean, did you have that problem yourself with any foster children, suddenly up sticks and running away?
Yeah. Oh yes. They used to run away. Yeah, no problem. One child ran away, and she decided that she was definitely going. And so I used to play the reverse psychology thing. I said, well, do you want some bus fare if you're running away? Because, you know, it's a long way into town. Can I give you some bus fare? No, I'm going. I said, are you going to wear the red coat? She went, yes. I said, just because there's a bull in the field, if you're going over the fields, there is a bull, so I wouldn't wear the red coat. Anyway, she stayed. She didn't go in the end, because
I think that's where a lot of parents go wrong. They are forever saying no, or shouting at their children, or, you know, I so believe in reverse psychology. And my daughter, when she was 14, she was honestly on a good day, she was worse than my 3 boys on a bad day, right?
Girls are, I think, harder.
She was born with PNT, I swear it. And she at 14, a very, very bright girl. They're all bright, very bright. And her boys, they were talking about A-levels and universities, her older brothers and all of that. We had twin boys. Anyway, and she said, I'm not going to university, Mum. There's 14. I said, well, that's okay. I'm not making you. I mean, it's fine. I'm not going. I said, no, you said that. That's fine. It's your life, your career. You do what you want. What would you like to do then? I'm going to be a lap dancer. Oh, okay. I am. I'm going to make money. I know you can make money doing that. I said, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, no problem. I don't think you believe me. I said, I do. So the next day I said to her, right, tomorrow morning we're going down to the dance shop because you want to be a lap dancer. So I want you to be the best lap dancer. So we're going to get a pole and a nice leotard and everything else. And well, I've actually changed my mind.
Yeah, she was pushing you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
She went to Durham University and did really well. But did it at any time put strain on your marriage? I'm being very personal. You don't have to answer that.
Oh, yeah. Not so much the fostering, actually. Peter's work generally.
Yes.
Because he had to deal with horrendous situations and read awful reports where dreadful things had happened to children. And I think he's not a depressive person, but I think it kind of got to him. And he was coming home from work and drinking a glass of wine to begin with, then 2 glasses. And I think he was trying to de-stress. And that was his way of dealing with it, I suppose. So it did put a strain, really. And I was bringing up the kids on my own at that point because he was completely immersed in his work, and quite right, those people needed his full attention, but there was nothing left at home, you know.
I find I have to do that with work I do. If I've done something on media or something, and I always get 3 or 4 people email me, and I haven't got a magic wand, and it's really hard, and I sometimes have to pull right back, and because you know the burnout, but on the other hand, you're compelled. You just feel that people have been sent to you. You can't just ignore them, and that is the trouble with so many people and so many charities. Certain things are the elephant in the room. And you know, I remember when I was teaching, we had foster children. I mean, some of them, what they'd gone through. I will never forget one little boy. I think Andrew, he's ended up in prison. But he used to be bog washed every day by his father, stucking his head down the toilet and literally pouring beer and cider down this kid's throat. And he was 6 years old. I mean, who does that? Burns and cigarette stabs all over him. And bless his heart, that damage was so... I mean, I'm going to I want someone to come on my show to talk about trauma in the early years and how that manifests later on in life. And that's going to be another show. But I think, you know, do you still see any of them?
Yeah, a couple of them, yeah.
Oh, how lovely.
You're not allowed to kind of chase them once they've left care. It's not allowed for you to contact them. But once they reach 18, then yes, you can contact them. So yeah, there's a couple of them that I see.
And have they done? So how many did you have at one time together in the house? Did you have 2 or 3?
We were approved for 3, but we occasionally had 4 because you know they were overwhelmed, and our own younger child as well. So yeah, it was a bit like running a B&B.
But how was the younger child? How did she take it? Did she think, you know, because at that age she'd have been going through puberty, which isn't easy, is it? And then mum's being diverted with these other children. How would she take it?
Very well, actually. We had long conversations with the kids about what we wanted to do and were they okay with it, and that we would give it a try and we could stop at any time. But Ness was really good. You know, she would, the younger ones, because you never have children older than your own is a general rule.
Oh, okay.
So because your own children could be bullied. So we were having children under 12 because Ness was 12. But she would, you know, I'd catch her brushing the hair and reading a story. And, you know, it was like for her having a little sister or a little brother. Oh. And she was really good. You know, even when things were tough, she was great. We didn't see much of Lex because she was away at uni, but, you know, she was also supportive and, you know, thought it was the right thing to do. And I think it was grounding for them. You know, they grown up going to private school and having ponies and really to find out that a couple of miles away there were children with no shoes and who slept in the dog's bed, and you know that happened obviously. And that was very grounding for them to realize that they were fortunate, and there were people around who weren't that fortunate through no fault of their own, and they wanted to help, to be honest. And I think it stood them in good stead. I think
absolutely
better people as a result.
Absolutely. When I was teaching, we was a Church of England school, and on a Friday afternoon, I'd invite over the road from us was and it was a Jewish private care home for residential. They had little bungalows and things for children with. I don't like saying disabled. I call them born differently, because they can still make something in the world. And I just don't like giving people labels. And they would come over, sometimes in their wheelchairs, sometimes whatever, and we'd do sport with them. And these children, because although it was, it was a state Church of England school, it was very small, and people would use it like a pre-prep or a prep before they then went to boarding school, you see, because they were small classes. Yeah. And it was very grounding for them. And it was a natural warmth towards these children. We didn't have to say, no, these children, you got, immediately they saw somebody less able than them, they just walked up and got on with it and helped them. And it is a very grounding thing to do, to say that, not everybody is born, with everything intact, put it that way. And I at the moment, I have, and long may she live, but I got a baby, 13-month-old baby granddaughter who's got lysancepathy, which is flat brain. She's off to Great Ormond Street today, and the other little ones, all mine are like little grandchildren. But again, they just, she's trying to sit up and all that, but they form a queue to try and help her do stuff, and it's really lovely. And I think they're great lessons in life, and for adults to see it as well. These children can be loving. They've got something to give. Yeah. So with all these children, I'm just trying to figure it out now. So sometimes you had 6. Did you ever take them on holiday?
Always. Well, we decided early on that we weren't going to be the kind of foster carers who took the money, did the bare minimum, and that happens. Of course it does. We were going to integrate them as part of our family. We were going to look after kids that were going to be part of the family. So the first year we had 2 permanent children, and we decided it was coming up to Christmas, and already that their parents and their carers were saying, oh, I'd like that one. I'd like you to bring a Christmas Eve, and then we'd like a Boxing Day, and we'd like a Christmas morning for a few hours. And they were in different directions. And I thought, I can see Christmas being a taxi service where we're just ferrying these children, because these precious children who the parent couldn't or wouldn't look after suddenly wanted them back at Christmas because they wanted a family Christmas. And I said to Peter, there's only one way to get around this, and that is to go on holiday at Christmas. So we took them on a Caribbean cruise. We all went. I think there were 10 of us in total. And it was just fantastic, because the kids had a ball. The weather was gorgeous. We took presents with us. They had loads of presents before, nice dresses and things to wear. And it was fabulous. And, we always maintained that they were part of our family. They weren't.
Absolutely.
They weren't to be moved around and you go there because we're going on holiday. And that happened. We had a lot of respite kids whose foster carers went on holiday. And you were allowed to do that. Yeah, you were allowed to, because I suppose it's a job, and you were allowed, 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it was, I can't remember, of time off. And I suppose some people, if they had a lot of difficult children with extra needs, additional needs, perhaps they did need to decompress, and they did need that time away with their own family. And I got that, absolutely. But also, if they were your own children, you would take them. You wouldn't.
I think if I ever did it, I don't think I could. But I think, because I find it really difficult to hand them back. Did you ever feel you wanted to adopt any?
Yes, but we decided not to. Simply because that affects inheritance. It affects your own kids going forward. And it's a kind of a one-way street that you don't want to go back on that. Whereas if you're fostering and things get really tough, children are very unmanageable and very unruly, and they're disrupting the household, you can actually ring the social worker and say, this isn't working, this child needs a different environment. And we did that on a couple of occasions. One where very violent.
That's also tough for the children, isn't it? Because they are at that point, it has to happen because it is disruptive. And I think this is what people understand, is these, I think sometimes I think like with adoption, they should actually let little babies be adopted rather than be bounced around foster carers until they're 3 years old and then be adopted, because their emotions are being kicked around like a can down the street, aren't they, really? And I think what you do is that the way, if I was going to do it, it would have to be in a totally altruistic way where, that child, I wouldn't do it. Could you foster me? Because I quite like to go on a Caribbean cruise and be given dresses.
I would stand over you and make sure that you brush your teeth, Marilyn.
I'd be very well behaved, I promise. Very tidy. Did you ever take them? I think Peter sent me a photo of looking out to the sea or something. Where was that?
Yes, that's not the one.
That's
the one. Well, that's the caravan that we've owned. In fact, it's been replaced now for 20 years on Anglesey, right on the beach.
Oh, right, okay.
In the summer holidays and the Easter holidays, that's where we used to take the kids, and they just had a ball. They could run about up and down the beach and go in the sea, and we had a boat, and it was great for them, and they absolutely loved it. As did our own kids. They've all been brought up there, really.
So do you have
grandkids?
Sorry. No, you carry on. Sorry.
Our grandkids there now and enjoy the same sort of things, because our older daughter has a caravan a couple of doors along, and we're there all summer. I spend the whole of the summer there with the grandkids.
Why wouldn't you?
Right.
Look at you. It's absolutely lovely.
But the kids, they absolutely loved it. And some of them, and this really blew my mind, had never seen the sea.
I know.
Never been out of the town where they were born. We had one child who'd never been in a car, and she was.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? It is extraordinary. Sorry, my light's gone out. It's extraordinary when you come across these children that they don't know. It's weird. I mean, I've had that before as well in my teaching, where they had never seen a cow.
No,
or never been, you just don't think about these things. They've never been on a train, or they've never, or it really does bring you up sharply to think how fortunate you are. And I always think, even if you don't have money, do you have a roof over your head? Do you have, friends? It's not all about money, is it? It's
of course it isn't, but I think you can give them experiences. You can take them to
absolutely,
the picnic.
Absolutely.
Whether you've got money or not, there are ways to make a child happy.
Exactly right.
Spending money. But
so do you have any anecdotes, like the funniest thing or the saddest thing or the worst thing?
Yeah, we had one gorgeous little girl. She was 6. And when she arrived, she was only with us short term until her grandmother was approved to foster her. But she was absolutely gorgeous. And she arrived and looked round and she said, "Jan, is this the countryside?" I said, "Yeah, it is." She said, "This is where children were evaporated to." She was just delightful. I took her to her room and she went, "Oh, there's a bed," because she'd slept in the dog's bed, and there are sheets, and isn't it lovely? And she was just delightful. It's one of those where I expected mice to come out of the skirting board dressed in waistcoats. It was like a Disney. Yeah, she was gorgeous, and she went to grandparents eventually.
It's funny. It's sort of really sad as well, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is really fun. Yes, and I think some of the worst things, some of the bad and sad stories would probably be sort of like some of them might be even stomach churning. So how do you find now then, because I'm sure you've still got your ear to the ground about children in care and fostering and all of that, I feel it's getting worse. I feel there's more children in care, going into care, and of course we've got more people in the country as well. Yeah. And then you've got additional things with language difficulties. And did you ever were they all English, or did you have anyone that had language difficulties?
No, and that's something we hadn't thought about until it happened. They rang us one day, and luckily we had no other children. Would you have this asylum seeker from Afghanistan? We think he's 14. So I went, yeah, well, how hard can it be? Turned out to be quite hard, actually.
Brave, I would say.
He didn't speak any English at all. And obviously, we didn't speak whatever his language was, Pashto, I think, or something like that. So I didn't know what he ate. I didn't know what his religion was. I didn't know anything about this boy. So I took him to Sainsbury's. I thought, well, I don't know what to feed him. So we were up and down the aisles in Sainsbury's, and I was making a noise like a chicken and pointing at things, pretending to lay an egg, The lip looks lovely as Cheshire. We're not impressed, but that's the kind of thing you've got to do. But we kind of got around it with humour and pointing, a lot of pointing.
I think that is absolute. Or any situation you're in, I have such a black humour. Any situation you're in, I think humour gets you through. You have to make light of it, don't you? Because when I've been doing my courses, and I do a thing on trauma, like Be the Child and how awful stuff is, and I will still be able to find something funny or a one-liner. And some people, somebody said to me once, "So you're making fun of abuse." I said, "I'm not making fun of abuse. I do this every single day of my life." I would be absolutely, I'd be in a sectioned if I didn't find things funny. And I think you have to have humour. I think it's so important. It gets you through, doesn't it? It really does get you through. But going back to the as I feel that, because they don't actually, I think it's changed, don't they now stop at 16 now? Because I know a lot of children, when they go to residential care homes, they are on their own at 16. They're off on their toes.
That might be the case with care homes. I think in fostering is 18.
Oh, right, okay.
With an option as a care leaver to stay until you're 21.
Oh, right.
Especially in higher education, because those kids who do go to uni, and there aren't that many, need a place to come back to, obviously, in the holidays.
Yes, of course. Yes,
so
of course.
There is a sort of care leaver option. But I mean, the rules do change, and it's a few years since we stopped.
I know with the cat, I mean, it's shocking that they get thrown out at 16 and they're on their own. I just think it's absolutely dreadful.
And especially if they've got additional needs. We had a child with ADHD, and the specialist had said to us, knock a third off her age. So actually, when she was 15, she was behaved like a 10-year-old, and that's how we had to treat her.
Yes, yeah. Actually, that's quite good advice. Actually, I might use that for any time somebody else sort of says something like that. Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. That's absolutely. So, what do you think then? How much do you think, given that we've got more children in the country, so it would naturally, by that number, sort of increase? Have you seen an increase?
Well, yes, I keep an eye on the figures. I know when we were fostering about 8 years ago.
Actually, Dan, I think we had a chart.
Yeah, there is a chart somewhere.
There's a chart, I think, that we can pop in here. There we go. Look,
I think at the moment in the UK there are 106 or 7,000 children in the care system.
Good grief. So I mean, at the bottom line, that's a sort of a flat line there, isn't it? It's almost just chugged along, and then the top one is spiraling. Yeah.
I don't know whether that's because we are more aware, or whether it's because there are more children in need. It's hard to say, isn't it? Or whether that's just the population growth. I don't know why that is, but no, there are more kids in care, definitely. And the shortage of foster care, of course. We're short by about 6,000 to 8,000 places we need immediately. Yeah. That's just to break even. That's just to stand still.
Yeah.
And there aren't those places. People aren't coming forward. So please do.
Oh, that was going to be my next question. Is what would you say to anyone? That's why I wanted to do this show, because I know there's a shortage of foster carers. So I'm now going to be listening to this show, and I've been thinking about fostering. What would you say to me?
I would say at least get yourself on the road, order the pack from the local authority, and go to the first meeting. And then have a think about it, because it's a long, robust, rigorous process. And at any time you can stop. You go to a couple of meetings and they start to tell you things about fostering. And some people at that stage think, oh, no, well, I can't. No, I didn't realise that happened. I can't do that. And they pull out. Other people, obviously keep going, and people filter out and fall by the wayside. And there are a lot less people at the end of that course, at the end of the 12 months. But you need to give it a go. You need to find out about it, because people have preconceived ideas like, oh, well, I rent my house, so I won't be able to do it. Well, of course you will. You live in a house. You've got a spare room. Of course you'll be able to do it. Or I haven't any qualifications, or I've never had children of my own, or I've got a disability, or I have benefits. There are all sorts of reasons that you can think of that you might not be able to do it, but please inquire about it, because you'd be amazed. Unless you've got a criminal record for something to do with children, then you're probably okay to do it. And we need people to come forward. If you've got a spare room, please.
I totally agree with you, Jan. And you actually see adverts now on roundabouts, don't you?
Yes.
Hertfordshire District Council, whatever, looking for foster carers, and
Yeah.
But what I've found, because I've sat in on a couple of, and I actually trained some foster carers earlier this year, and it was very interesting. It was on about online stuff and the children with the phones and the horror of the iPhone, that the parents and the dads have bought it, and you know, when you actually confiscate it, the parents kick off and all of that. See, my biggest problem would be the parents.
You don't need to interact with them. Generally, you don't need to interact. They are the children brought to you.
What I think part of the problem is as well is, I might be wrong, that if you throttle back from this and you look at all the Sure Start centres we used to have, all the children's centres we used to have, and then was it the Tory government? I think they're all as bad as each other. Just literally wiped out so many of those Sure Start centres, and those were, given that a lot of parents, young parents, they don't live with auntie, granny, sister around the corner. They are way away from any support network, and these Sure Start centres were their support. And I know they did parenting courses, and I know they did parenting courses for fathers. And I think, the baby doesn't come with a guidebook, does it? I mean, and every child is different. We are all unique. And I wonder if that's what's caused some of it, because people are, shut up in high-rise flats, and there's no, there's no support there. I think it's criminal that they shut those places down.
Oh, absolutely, because it's only when children are at school or at nursery, or they're interacting in various places, that professionals can keep an eye on it. Is there a bruise? Has that child come to school with dirty clothes and a couple more bruises? That kind of thing. There are people keeping an eye, and of course, when there was lockdown, that wasn't happening. Children weren't being kept an eye on at all, and things weren't reported. And I think there was a spike then, certainly, because things went on that nobody could do anything about because they didn't know about it.
And I remember thinking that the first day lockdown started, and I thought, oh my word, watch the domestic abuse, watch the child abuse go up. I mean, I can remember thinking, because I live in the middle of the countryside here like you do, so it's really nice. The weather was gorgeous during lockdown. There was a glass of white wine, no planes, beautiful, very nice. It was all very lovely, and I thought, heavens, because it was a hot summer that year, wasn't it? How must it be to be in a one-bedroom flat, 20 stories high, with either a rotten partner or no partner, sweltering heat with 3 kids, and, you can't get out because all little ones want to run around, don't they? And I can remember thinking, you know what? Be thankful where you are, because I think it must be just so awful, just absolutely awful. But I do think, the Sure Start centres, I think, caused the lack of them, I think, caused an awful lot of issues, and they were just amazing places, and I hope they come back in again, really. So, who would you say, have you got someone that really you thought that one was the best success? If you actually turned out a cardiologist, surgeon or something.
No, there's a couple that have turned out really, really well, and you have to be very proud of them, because against all the odds and all adversity, they've turned out to be brilliant citizens, and that's kind of what you want. If they end up happy and fulfilled and in a job, and they've got their own kids and that kind of thing, well, you think, that's great, that's a good outcome. It doesn't happen to all of them, of course. Some of them are unable to function,
but you're giving them
society.
You're sort of a footpath to give them the chance of being the best people they can possibly be. And I think also it comes into this is, and I'm always banging on about this, those children that did what they did, those 2 you highlight, I suspect, and I'm a big fan of this, resilience is so important.
Yeah, definitely. And you can teach that to a point.
I think parents need to be really making their children tougher, instead of being like helicopter parents where you can't fail, you can't do this, you can't fall over. That's how you build resilience, is how you roll with the punches, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. And you're right, if the kids aren't parented at all, very often they're left to run feral.
Absolutely.
And they don't know what the boundaries are, and kids like boundaries. They need to know what
they need. Boundaries. They
do
need
boundaries.
That they absolutely do. And I've, some of the children I have seen in schools, they're pretty feral, but then I've seen an awful lot of woke head teachers who don't want to draw a line in the sand and say enough.
Yeah.
You know, have a talk about this. And I think that's a shocking thing as well. So after all this experience of 30 children, you wrote this book, which is, I mean, part of the family, which is a lovely title. Lovely title. It's a bit like having a puppy. They're not just for Christmas, are they?
No, correct. There
you are, looking all glossy and lovely. I mean, how long did it take you to write it?
Oh, only about 3 or 4 months, because I had all the information at my fingertips. Because when you foster, there's so much paperwork. And, you know, you have to fill it in daily, weekly, after every visit, you know, all of that kind of thing. So I had all this paperwork at my disposal, and I wanted to preserve the memories. That's how the book started. It was for my own use, actually. It was so that when the kids later on asked me, oh, do you remember when we had that little girl who did this and said that, and we went there? I wanted to put that down on paper and preserve the memory for their sake as much as my own, so that we could remember and not forget these kids. And it sort of snowballed a little bit. And a friend of mine, Rania, said to me, you know, you should turn this into a book. People might be interested. And I went, oh, I don't think they will. So she read a bit of it and said, oh, no, you really need to turn this into a book. So I did a chapter on each child. Not all the children, about 6 or 7 of them, and a chapter on how we got started and the process to foster, and a chapter on Peter's work. And it just kind of evolved, I suppose.
Because I'm going to buy the book.
I could give you one for free.
Buy it.
You buy it on Amazon. I think it's about £8. It's a paperback. So, yeah, it's just available on Amazon at the moment.
And what was I going to say? Something. Who published it?
The publisher was Austin Macaulay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because I wrote a book with my situation, and I wrote that in 4 days.
Oh my gosh!
And I think because mine was such raw anger, you know, that I thought, I've got to get this out. I think it's a really good thing to do. I think writing is cathartic.
It is, yes, definitely. You get that on paper. Yeah.
I've helped people with domestic abuse, coming out of domestic abuse, and I always say, write down whatever you want to say to that person, and then however vile it needs to be. And then we used to go outside the office where I did it, and we burn it, you know, because I think that is also cathartic. Yes. Fire is, I'm not advocating burning down buildings, but to write a really, you know, you did this, you do that, blah, 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 whatever you wanted to do. And then, you know, ceremonial burning we used to have of this in a little incinerator thing. And, you know, it's, you know, I think these things are cathartic. Writing, I always liked English, and I still do. I think people have forgotten how to write and forgotten how to write.
Well, they text, don't they? They don't write things with a pen anymore. People just text. It's language, real language.
So, Jan, what is next now? What's next for Jan Garsden? Because we're coming to the end of the show. So what's next for Jan Garsden?
I'm kind of trying to slow down. I'm 70 now, so I need to not really embark on many other projects.
You don't look it.
Oh, thank you. That's the right answer. Well done. 10 out of 10. No, just I have got grandchildren now, and they are 10 and 11, and they're delightful. And our younger daughter gets married in 2026, so maybe kids will follow. Fingers crossed. So I just want to embrace and enjoy being a grandma, really.
Oh I mean,
project on the go.
Mine are all very little, and they're. I would absolutely recommend it. I wish I'd been a nana before I became a mother. Actually, a lot easier.
Well, you've got the time and the patience and the money.
But, you know, when they decide that they're going to really play up, got to go now.
Yes, off you go home.
My excuse is always, I've got to get home for the dog. So honestly, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on, Jan. Honestly, absolutely brilliant. And there's absolutely no pressure on Peter next week.
He's going to do a better job than me. He's got a lot more.
No, it's absolutely unbelievable what you've done. And I just want to say, you really are very special people, and all foster carers, I think, are the unsung heroes of society. So I bow to you. You know, you're giving children, every child, you're giving love, support, and hope. And I always say, and I've said this to my children, you don't ever take away someone's hope, because it may be all that they've got left.
That's true.
And
Absolutely.
I think that you have to hang on to hope. And I just want to thank every foster carer that's out there. And I really do hope people tune in to see this, because you look extraordinary, and you don't look beaten down by, by what you did. And I think it's really rewarding.
Yeah. Oh, very rewarding. When you see a child's face light up, when you give them the first experience of the beach, the park, new shoes, whatever it is, riding lessons, taking them skiing. When you see that child's face, that's all the reward you need. I mean, obviously you need some money to grease the wheels. You need that as well. But it's the faces and the way some of them eventually thank you. Not always, not at the beginning, but they'll actually come back and say thank you. You made a difference, and that's worth all the money in the world.
But it is. And I mean, as I say, all of you that even consider foster caring and go on with it, I want to thank you for every child that hasn't got the voice. Excuse me, for giving so selflessly of your love and your time, and turning these children around. It's laudable, and I really thank you. So you gave them hope. Don't ever take it away from anyone. And Jan, you've been an absolute pleasure, utter delight. Thank you so much. I thank you. I thank you so much, and I really do hope people start looking around. And I've learnt an awful lot from you about foster caring, and I'm going to put a good voice out there as well. But I am going to buy the book.
Please do.
So much. Thank you for your time. And
thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Yes, and you too. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.